Hey, ladies and gentlemen, a real treat for any wrestling fans out there. You guys are all wrestling fans, right? You must be. You're the loyal, hardcore wrestling fans. You've stayed here. For you, this is the best at the very end of the day. Let's hear it now for Marty Jannetty.
See you. Rocking and rolling, strutting and strolling, right?
How are you finding Scotland?
Oh, great. I always have a good time when I come over here, you know, the UK or anywhere in the general vicinity. But this time it's been really fun. And I haven't gotten in any trouble yet.
This is the interview that's concerned me perhaps the most today, because wrestling audiences know the sport so well. They know you inside out so well. So I'm worried that there's nothing I can ask you that they won't already know. Tell us something about you that perhaps doesn't get portrayed in the media quite as much. Something about you as a person, perhaps.
I'm really not as bad off as what you hear in the media, especially because of my Facebook. I get over there sometimes after a couple of whiskey sours and say a little too much, but I'm not that bad. You know what they never do? All these, especially the wrestling sites, they don't mention the things that I do good. Like if I do, charity work, if I go see kids, that are in the children's hospital, like Make-A-Wish or Last Wish. I don't know what they have, over here, but they don't ever mention that kind of thing. It's Marty must have been drunk last night and talked about being with 3 girls that he didn't know none of them's name. And that kind of stuff gets out for some reason. But that was the point, was I'm not as bad as the media sometimes makes me to be, nor Shawn Michaels. Sometimes he has a habit of making me look like a bad guy, when I'm not. Can you tell? I'm not a bad guy, I hope.
I like to think that people tell those stories that you're not keen on because you were just such an interesting character, and because you are such an interesting character. It has been such a colourful career for you, hasn't it?
Yeah, there's been a lot of ups and downs. It's weird to say, but I've enjoyed even the downs. The good thing about a downtime is the good's on the way. But yeah, it's definitely been a colorful one. All the way from the barber shop window, to which I'm back there now. What's amazing about that is, that happened in 1991. And my math ain't good, but that's a lot of years ago. And we're still talking about it. And, so it was a highlight, even though it was, I got thrown through a window that everybody assumed was sugar glass, but it wasn't.
It wasn't?
No, I think they meant for it to be. But the production crew, they didn't mark up the windows, and they were afraid of getting fired, whoever was in charge of that. They had 3 window panes, and 2 of them were sugar glass. And they thought, well, we got 2 out of 3 chances to get it right. Let's just go ahead and try it. And they got the wrong one. The lucky thing was, like one of the production guys came running up to me. He's like, "You're okay, you're okay." And I did get cut in the head a little bit, and where I was laying in through the window, some cuts, not bad at all. And I was amazed that he was so upset. I'm like, "Yeah, what's up, man? We slammed each other 1,000,000 times. Well, why are you so upset?" And he goes, "Well, please don't be mad at me, but we had to guess which window pane to put in, and we guessed wrong." And, one side of me was going, damn. What if it would have went a little worse? But on the other side, it was like, no harm, no foul, no big deal. So, we didn't even worry about it and let it blow on. But even to this day, when I watch that video of that happening, there's this one piece of glass dangling, now knowing that it was actual real glass, real paint, that if it would have just fallen, I was laying through, so it probably would have hurt.
But you suffered for your art there.
What's that?
You suffered for your art, I think, there. And wrestling, it is an art, isn't it? It's pure, it can be pure theater, can't it?
It's a very big art. Bret Hart, Hitman Bret Hart, y'all know who he is. he's the first one that tells everybody this. It's an art, and he's a very good artist, like drawing. So he like compares it to his drawing. Like when he does seminars to teach the new kids, he compares it to drawing a picture. You put this here, and you put it for a reason, so it all comes together at the end. And which is a very good comparison, because that's what it is. You're telling a story. So that, it's, whether it's a good story or a bad story, it's a matter of you being a good artist or a bad artist at that.
Tell me about feuds in wrestling, because the sport seems to really thrive on a good feud. Is it essential? Is it pivotal?
What I think the good feuds, the ones that are, I hate to say it like this, but the ones that are more real, like there's some truth to it going on, and I hate to use any examples on something like this, but do you guys remember when, was it Lita? One of the Hardys was, y'all remember, you said that one right away. That was you that set that up, huh? That was a feud that kind of went good because there was truth to it. And then one time, Vince McMahon didn't like that, it with good reasoning. We're on the road 300 days a year. It's tough if you have a family at home waiting. I've been lucky enough to be single, if that's lucky. But so I enjoyed being on the road all the time because my family was out there on the road, just like with you. When I come over here, this is my family now. But for the guys that had somebody at home waiting, the last thing we would need at all is one of your comrades, one of your buddies, going and messing with your girl while you're on the road working. So Vince kind of understandably frowned on that. I hate to give an example, but let me look and see if they're here. But I'm only telling because somebody else already did. But y'all remember Tatanka? Yeah, and his name was Paul Diamond. He wrestled. He did a few gimmicks. He was one at Orient Express. It was always funny. He'd put the mask on and go as Kato with Pat Tanaka, the Oriental guys. And he had an American guy being the Orient Express. But he also did Max Boone, which was a character where he flew up the steps a little bit. Because he was supposed to be a high flyer, so they gave him that character. But anyway, and Paul was a good, he was a great athlete, a good guy, but stuff like that. To make this short and right to the point, he, I guess he messed around with Tatanka's home person. I don't know if they were married or just living together, but it kind of don't matter. But he was, Vince McMahon really frowned on him doing that and was trying to figure out how he's going to release him or what he was going to do with it. And now they're making a storyline. It's changed to now, like, wait a minute, that would make a great storyline. Which some of the guys say, you mean that'll make you a lot of money. But then things change. What I would say about that, so Tatanka, who's a good friend of mine, we were all sitting around the very day that, Paul and Tatanka, I feel bad telling him. Like I said, it's already been told by other people. But
you won't tell anybody, right? You'll keep this to yourselves.
One video for podcast here. That one might make
he
the
might
world.
tell someone else.
But she actually, this is to make the worst of the worst. We were all on the road, doing different cities. At times we do three cities a night. And Paul had brought Tatanka's girl on the road with him. And they were in the same town, same place as in Worcester, Massachusetts. And we were all the guys, all of us were like, what is wrong? Why would you do? I mean, not even in a different town, not in a different city. You're in the same town. As the story went, Tatanka would drive fast, so he would leave later. Some of the guys when we have to drive to a town. Paul was driving, actually had to make her duck down, not like that. I'm not talking about over in the lap.
Let's keep it clean.
Yeah. But yeah, he had to get her to duck down because, you know, his name is Chris, but Tatanka was going by. Get down, here comes your husband, your boyfriend, whatever it was. And she's ducking, and him and her, and then they're waving like they're buddies, you know, they're party buddies too. They're waving at each other while his girlfriend's hiding. I mean, that's to me, that's just kind of about as low as it gets, as bad as it can get. I think. I'm sure there's other ways, but yeah, that was the one we were all waiting for because on the way back from the town, they had a wreck. You know, you know what they say about karma, you know, but they had a wreck, and she had to go actually be taken into the hospital. And I can't believe I'm telling y'all this. Well, you know, remember the guy from Poison with Brett Michaels? Remember the song "Every Rose Has Its Thorn"? He's even said it. I'm glad my pain could bring y'all some enjoyment, because that hit, you know, everybody loved it. Well, this is one of Tatanka's pains, I would guess. But he had got a call. We were all staying in Boston. You know, we drove down to Worcester, which was like an hour away, whatever it was. And when he got back to the hotel, he got a call to call his wife, his girlfriend, whatever. You know, they were living together. To call her, but she'd been in a bad accident. And, you know, he started calling home, and she wasn't answering there. As it ended up, she was in the hospital in Worcester, and then that's when everything came out, like, why, what? You know, and the story came out. Yes, you know, Paul flew her out, and it was the next day. I guess I started this long story. The next day, all the boys we had TV taping, so all the guys are there. We're all thinking, what's going to happen? You know, what's Tatanka going to do? I mean, is he going to jump him right when he walks in the door? Is he going to take him to one of the dressing rooms? Is he going to meet him out in the parking lot? We had more anxiety than I'm sure Paul or Chris did. But as it ended up, Vince, he didn't do anything, and we were all shocked. He didn't even yell at him. And as we found out, Vince, no, we're business here. I'll take care of Paul. And I guess he was going to let Paul go. But, you know, do not do anything about it. Don't be jumping them here at TV. We need, you know, our TV tapings tonight. And that was the end of that. So Road Warrior Hawk, y'all remember Road Warriors, Hawk? He got mad at Tatanka for not doing anything. He's like, or to beat your ass for not beating his ass. And, you know, but it was Vince. It was all Vince. He goes, is Vince, I almost said a bad word, is Vince having sex with your wife? Is Vince doing that? Why should he call your shots? But, you know, that was, again, the way the business changed, the way the artistry has changed. Pictures get more provocative now, I guess, because now they welcome something like that to make a storyline out of, so that the certain pockets get fatter. Was that the answer to that question, you think?
Yes, I would say a firm yes. I asked him to say things that we hadn't heard before, and he's very much doing that, isn't he? Just tell me about, was behavior an issue for some wrestlers? Because it would be very simple to go from relative obscurity and being an unknown. I'm trying to buy you time to get that bottle open. Thank you. You could go from being a relative unknown to being a superstar fairly quickly, and that must have been difficult for some people to deal with. Was behavior difficult for some wrestlers?
Well, yeah, there was a saying, it's like too much too soon. And basically what it means is you got shot up into stardom, and it was just too much for you to handle. And that's everywhere. You know, it's Hollywood, it has the same thing. We have it. You know, we are supposed to be Hollywood now. But, you know, remember Randy Savage, Macho Man? A very good friend of mine. And he told me something that I'll never forget. You know, I told him, we were riding to one of the towns, and I said, Randy, I said, you know, since Sean and I, with the Rockers thing, the more popular we get, he's changing. It's really making him a different person. The fame, the stardom is changing him. And he's like, no, brother. It didn't change him at all. The stardom just makes him comfortable to be who he already is. And you know what? I never thought of it like that, but it's true because once you start going out anywhere that you go out and people want autographs and running up into you, you kind of can relax back and just say like, whatever I want to do, I guess. So it does make you become who you are. And some of the guys, I think Sean has ironed out some now, but boy, he was rough there for a while, which is why the barbershop happened. But I think another one that, damn, I'm ratting out everybody, ain't I? The Ultimate Warrior. He was a good friend. He didn't have that many good friends in the business because he was just so intense. He was wild. His interest from the ring, how he's shaking everything and going crazy. And that was him in real life. And we're going through the airport in the morning trying to be quiet so we don't get no attention. And he's yelling, screaming at the girl at the rent-a-car counter because she ain't got his car ready. And everybody's looking. Another thing with him, it was so funny, he didn't want the attention, especially when, he didn't have his face paint on. We'd be in the airport and people, you can't miss him. He's huge. Long hair, and, they know what he looks like. And they'd come up to get autographs from him, and he'd be like, don't you see, I'm not dressed up. I don't want to sign and take pictures just leave me alone. He was that way. He was intense. But what made it interesting with him, he'd get all upset because somebody asked him for a picture and an autograph, because they recognized it, but he's not in face paint. Hey, no, not right now. We'll do it at the arena. Then the next day he'd show up and he'd have a pair of boots, cowboy boot things, that said Ultimate down one side, Warrior down the other. And we're just looking at that thinking, don't want no attention, huh? Next day he comes with that jacket. They had a Warrior jacket, WWE made for him, with him on the back with a big globe. He's wearing that with his boots. And just a little bit shortly after that, he gets a tattoo of what was on that jacket on his arm. I mean, he's decorated head to toe, but don't want nobody to recognize him. That's when you just, some of the guys like Sean, you just figured it was an arrogant kind of personality. He's going to be that way. Somebody like Warrior, you just never know when he's going to snap. You just want to keep distance. But yeah, it's hard to tell which direction a person will go towards being more of themselves once the stardom comes, like you said. We called it shotgunning to the top. Because once you've paid your dues, in this industry in particular, you're a lot more humble. You're a lot more nicer to people. Because there was a whole lot of blood, sweat, and tears that had to happen before you ever got up top. And nothing against the guys of today, but the younger guys, they want younger, prettier guys. And girls, the girls are pretty much taking over. The diva division, they don't even want them called divas now. They're superstars also. I guess that Me Too movement. Do y'all have that over here? The Me Too movement? That's a big thing over there. Girls want to be not looked at as sex symbols, and they're sort of ultimate warriors. They want the Me Too. I want to be equal rights, and then they wear a skirt up to here with no panties underneath. And the only reason you know that's because they drop something on the floor in front of you on purpose. But I better stop before I get in trouble.
Let me just ask you, because you've been over in the barber shop today. We should point out that Brutus, the barber Beefcake, has got other commitments today. He's had to pull out because he's got some filming to do, so he sends his apologies. He would love to be here. But everybody here is also excited about the Undertaker experience this weekend. What's your go-to story about the Undertaker?
And we call him the Underwear Taker, just for heck. But he's a great guy, super. When I saw the UK the guy today, this Undertaker, and I've met him before, we know each other, but I just knew Mark, which is Taker's name. I knew Mark was going to be here, and I was like, couldn't wait to see him. And I sat and I look over there and saw UK, and before I saw the UK part, I looked like, well, it looks like Mark, but Mark's a little taller. Mark's a little bit wider, and I'm waving like, the reason I'm hesitant on something like that is some years ago, and I love him to death. Brian Dixon was a promoter in the UK. Anybody know, you know of him? And I remember when I first came over for him, he had The Undertaker, he had Big Van Vader, you'll remember him, Kane, Sergeant Slaughter, me and the Bushwhackers. We're all on we're all on the card. And I thought, man, this is going to be selling out. This is a pretty good card to get international. They went in the dressing room, and Kane was a different person. All he had to do was put that mask over, right? Vader he had that, you know, half mask that he wore. And Sergeant Slaughter put on the camouflage on his face, so you couldn't tell they weren't. And the same thing with Taker was there. And I'm not sure if it was him back then, but you know, somebody else wasn't quite the same size. But I was just kind of amazed, like most of this card's not real. And then when I was in the ring signing an autograph, I thought this was funny. This one little kid comes up to me and he's like, "Where are the real rockers at right now?" You know, he didn't believe that was real either. But Brian Dixon got away with that for a while.
Guys, I just wondered if any of you guys have questions, because you are such big fans. I can see one straight away there. I'm going to jump down here.
Hi, Marty. So, who was your real best friend in the whole of your wrestling career?
Well, yeah, Sean and I were really close until he started, you know, going his own direction, that was fine. It was just the way he picked to do it. But, you know, I think I got along with everybody. I was able to do things, you know, joking-wise that other people weren't, you know, you could never do, which you know, I used to like to clown, still do. But I'd get other people's, you know, their character things, like, what's his name, Hacksaw Duggan, get his crown, you know, go get the Barbarian, go get that Cody wore with the horns, put 3 or 4, you know, gimmicks on, and you know, walk around, and everybody be laughing, and they'd be shaking their head like, you can't do that. But you know, the guys, we were good and close enough, they just laughed it off. But I guess the point was to answer the question. I was kind of good with everybody. Some were closer, like I said. Sean was real good for a while. I don't know if any of y'all know. Probably the closest was Jimmy Powers. He was with what were they called? The Young Stallions. Him and Paul Roma. Maybe him and I got along probably the best. Probably because we had the same kind of lifestyle, you know, afterwards, going out chasing the ladies. But yeah, he was, you know, we got to be very close, and you know, so if I had to just pick one, I'd probably go with him. You know, him and Sean.
Somebody else here had their hand up. There we go.
Paul Diamond was until when he started that.
Thank you.
Hello, Marty. It's good to see you.
You too.
It's 2 questions. The first one is, what was the worst injury you've ever suffered in your career? And the second one is, what was your most memorable match that you've partaken in?
What was the second question?
What was the most memorable match that you've ever partaken in?
I think the biggest injury was, it broke my heart to find out that Sean was going to get this big push and I wasn't. But as far as physical, yeah, I'd cracked my ankle a few times, and really, I think the only time that really I missed anything was a shoulder injury, it was a torn rotator. And Vince actually went, you know, he went out and asked me to take the time off. But I was like, no, I don't want to, no. And one of the reasons were they will pay you a base pay when you're not at work if you have to miss. But you know, you get bored when you're there, and I always wanted the more. I had more to do with it. I had a lot of partying to do back then. And so, you know, I was like, no, please, no, I don't need that. I don't need no time off. But I was, you know, couldn't even hardly raise my arm. And he said, look, we'll pay you your regular pay, but he goes, I need you at 100%. You got some big matches coming up for me. I want you to be ready for those. But that was the most painful. But like I said, it wasn't so painful to ask for time off. But that and the ankle, that was pretty much, I guess, kind of it. But I got lucky because a lot of the guys, especially the guys that had 30-year careers, You know, I'm injured now and limping around and wondering why I kept going so long. But other than I love it to death. But, you know, I see some of the other guys and, you know, a bad example to use because it's for a different reason, but like Lex Luger, you know Lex, and he's in a wheelchair now, and man, that hurts to see, because that was one of the most built, physical, and conditional guy in the business ever, I think. You know, and to know how much he loved that. I mean, he ate perfect, he did everything right, and now to, you know, see him in a wheelchair, just it hurts your feelings to see. And I imagine that's for a friend, you know, I can't imagine what a fan has to see, because a fan's looking at him like that person that was my hero on TV, and you see him getting wheeled in and all, you know, 100 pounds lighter and is not really smiling that much. But as far as the best match, it had to be one with Sean. And it was right before we did the Royal Rumble, and it was getting ready, preparing for that one. But outside of that should be, because Sean and I were partners for like 7 years, and we knew each other inside out. We knew what each other could do, so it was easy to have good matches, and we had a lot of them. But outside of him, I would have to go with Kurt Angle. Kurt Angle was probably the best, and we only had one match. Him and I both wanted to have a lot more matches, but that was the only one we got to do. And it was like, I couldn't believe how easy, how good it was. I say easy, I mean, we worked hard in there. I think we went 20-something minutes on SmackDown, which back then, and maybe even now, you don't do long matches. Those are called the house shows. You know, you do the house shows, you do long matches, but they need to get so many people on TV in the hour. So, you know, you have shorter matches for that. But, man, I would have loved what they call a program or a storyline or an angle. I would have loved to have been able to work with him every night. It's so easy. You're not going to get hurt. And the main thing is to make sure the fans leave happy or mad. not sad, mad. Because then they want to pay to see that person that pissed them off get beat up next time. So that's where that's at.
Does anyone else?
I was wondering, Marty, if you had any memories from your time in WCW?
Yeah, there's a handful. I know when I first went there, I was like, I don't know how this is going to work out for me. And that was one that I stopped partying as much as I did, or what was my normal amount, so I could like really get in good condition, which I was in pretty good condition anyway. But I wanted to be in the best, to make my best time out of WCW. But when I went there, I seen it was what we call cliquish. Like Dusty Rhodes had his crew. Ric Flair had his crew. Kevin Sullivan had a crew. Kevin Nash had a crew. And I'm sure there's more. But just thinking right off the top that, you know, and I was friends with every one of them. But I'm just not into that clique thing. Like, excuse my language, we do got a kid. Kiss the how do you say it over here? Arse.
That'll be okay.
You know, I'm not into that, and that's what being in the clique was going to be. So I just figured, do the Lone Ranger thing, do my own thing, and that just didn't get you far. But that was the thing that stood out about WCW. Was just how cliquish it was. You know.
Just got one. I think we've got time for one more question.
What do you think of the current wrestling products that are coming out just now? And is there anybody that you think they're the one to watch, like they're going to be amazing, or superstars, I guess?
That's actually what I like doing now, is going and looking. Because I do train, I help train and go more so than have my own school, because you're limited to, you're only going to get the people from right around that area, unless they got money and they can fly in. And people who got money ain't trying to be a wrestler. I remember one time, I forget, Rufus R. Jones, you know, from the old school days. He asked me, what would you do if you won $1 million, Marty? And I said, I don't know, what would you do? He goes, I'd keep wrestling till it was all gone, which is about true, because when you're breaking in, yeah. But the kids of today, they work hard. the better athletes, that's just, nature evolving. There's nothing, there's no shot you can go take to make you a better athlete. Even when you're taking in roids, which everybody seems to have the notion that, oh, well, yeah, look how he is. He takes steroids. That don't do nothing. You still got to go work out. You still got to work out hard. You still got to diet hard. It helps, but you take a shot by itself all day and nothing happening. But I like the product today. It's changed, and back in the day, unless you were shotgun, like we said earlier with Sean and some of the people, you put your dues in, and you were ready. Time it was okay. Here's your time to shine. You were ready because you already put the time in. Today, they can get shot up at top. Stephanie McMahon, I guess, was the one that first started preaching it. We want younger, prettier, better looking, younger. And, it sort of has become that. Now, if you're like 30 years old, 29, I think, you remember the Boogeyman? The one that comes out eating the worms? He went for that tough enough, but they didn't want anybody that was 30 years old or older. And so he told him he was 29, so he's 1 year under when he was actually 40. And they didn't ID him or anything till somebody told him after he was already determined to move on to the next level. Like, you got an ID or something, we can check you on this? And he told him the truth. He's like, no, it was this much, but you said, and the thing was, they wanted him, but just the fact that he might have been 30 or more, and then they didn't want him. But as y'all see, they did end up bringing him in. That's one thing, like Al Snow has always said, if Vince thinks he can make money with you, I got fired a few times. That's hard to say, but I got fired a few times, and I quit a few times. And I hope I'm getting your question answered. But I also, Iron Sheik and I had the record. We were both on 7 for hirings and firings, or if you quit, or whichever way. And I think I finally got him. The last trouble I got in, I finally got that record. But that's, somebody said, why would you bring him back 7 different times? And like Al Snow said, if Vince can make money with you, he'll bring you back. But to answer your question, what was it?
Any new ones to watch? Who should we be looking out for in the next few years? We have to keep it brief because we're running out of time, Marty, my friend.
There's, when I see him, I'm like, that guy's got so much talent, and it's got to include more than just physical ability. It's whether you can connect with the people. So many of the guys are not ready to grab the mic and do what I'm doing, which I'm not ready, obviously. But they do that to them, like on Raw or on SmackDown. Here's the mic, go talk for 10 minutes. Not everybody can hold the attention like that, and you lose them right from the beginning, which is horrible, because that means when there's finally a match, they're going to really have to work their arse off to get the people back into it. But, and guys like The Rock and John Cena that can grab the mic and they can go until you tell them to stop, they can connect. But guys like that come along once in a generation, But for what's the business has evolved to, the guys that are there today, yeah, they can hold it. They can guide the boat. They, it's 20 years ago they couldn't have, but they didn't have to 20 years ago. So yeah, they're and I forget some of the names, which I hate, because I try to keep up, with it for when I do seminars or do, some classes that, guest teacher, instructor. Some of the names I can compare to, like, hey, you do it like this guy or that guy. And, I forget about them all the time. I forget the name. I can see them. I can picture them. And then as soon as their name is said on TV, I'm like, that's it.
Marty, we could listen to you all day. I'm afraid we are out of time.
That was like,
I hate to say it.
That was like 3 questions. Imagine if I got a dozen.
Brilliant. Guys, haven't you enjoyed it today? What an absolute superstar. Ladies and gentlemen, Marty Jannetty.
Thank you all so much. It was a pleasure being here and seeing all of y'all.